Are you listening to this show hoping to get some golden nuggets to help you on your way to recovery? Well, great. I hope that you find them because that is exactly what this show is for. But if you really want to take your recovery all the way, completely commit and get on track with your goals, whether they be finally feeling overall healthy, finally getting pregnant, or finally getting back to training, you'll want to join us inside of the HA Society. Not only is this the perfect community to ask questions and get your support and the accountability that you so often need during these uphill battles with body image and understanding nutrition and incorporating exercise, but it's also a hub of exclusive resources for HAs. All of the HA podcast episodes are released in advance and completely ad-free, so you can listen on the go to the raw, unedited versions uninterrupted. All of the one-on-one coaching calls, of which we have 2 a week in different time zones, are uploaded to our private podcast feed so that you can listen to events with practitioners and the past community calls as though they were bonus podcast episodes, because I know how much you love to listen to this kind of stuff. And in these calls, we cover requested topics like overcoming the weight gain fears, communicating with friends and family about our HA, diving into how HA works, and debunking the imposter syndrome that so many of us have around this diagnosis. There's also an entire resources section with lectures, workshops, and training from the past events that are hosted by experts like Sarah Liz King, Laura Lyons, Kaylee McDevitt, Holly Dunn, and many more. As a member, you also get direct access to myself and Coach Ashley in the DMs. So if you have personal questions or need individualized advice about your recovery, we're in there answering your questions in the DMs, as are all of our other members in the group who impress me week after week with how they show up for each other. It's incredible. It's like women are just all becoming mini coaches for each other. It's so good. The HA Society is really the place to be if you're going through recovery, no matter what stage you're at. Whether you have HA or you've got a few recovery periods, we have your back and we're all your new best friends. So come and meet us at thehasociety.com/join. That's thehasociety.com/join, and the link is in the show notes for you. Okay, on with the show. Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Podcast. I'm Dani Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are talking about cycle tracking. So I am very outspoken about the value of tracking signs that your cycle is coming back before you even have a period. So if you're not sure about what I'm talking about, the fertility awareness method, there are a few different types of this method, and it's used as a form of birth control or helping you to time pregnancy and overall just get a good understanding of your menstrual health and what to expect in a cycle and what your body's doing. And it's really fascinating for everyone of menstruating age to do, because it helps you really show like how you live your life really does reflect in your cycle. And that's awesome. When you drink alcohol, boom, it spikes up. When you get bad sleep, boom, it could plummet all the way down. When you're not eating enough, your temperatures can be too low. When you're sick, you'll see that it's always like quite elevated. And when everything's going well, you can see your follicular phase. You can see when ovulation happens because there's a strong and obvious rise in your temperature, and you can see how long your luteal phase was, which indicates how much progesterone that you're producing, which is indicative of a lot of things, but most commonly, most present is if you were trying to get pregnant, if your luteal phase isn't long enough, you're not producing enough progesterone, you're not going to get pregnant, even if ovulation was great. So there's a ton of use for tracking. And in recovery, we're looking often for signs that your period is coming back. And when you have gotten your first couple cycles, we are looking for how those parameters are looking. Are they not so great? And are they starting to improve? Or are they going backwards, or are they staying stagnant? And then we can use that information to make decisions around food, sleep, nutrition in general, exercise in general, and we can get really dialed in all the way through to supplementation. So I wanted to make this video to go over the mistakes that people commonly make. I think anyone who teaches what we teach, that this method, can fall victim to making assumptions that our clients understood the first time we told them, or that we didn't forget to tell them any details, or that they're potentially doing something just like wildly wrong. So I'm going to go through a lot of the common mistakes, and I want this as a tool for my clients, but hey, a tool for you too, just to make sure there's not a blind spot or something that you are doing maybe wrong or just not to full effect. And if any of these end up being something you were doing, please let me know in the comments below, because it's so interesting for me to know what mistakes people have been making. Or was there a mistake that you used to make that you're not making now that I didn't talk about? I want to know what your mistakes were. So comment below for us. Okay. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It helps other women like you trying to get their cycle back and improve their life. It helps them find this channel. So let's do it. Okay, so the first one is all about temping. So you take your temperature every single morning so that you can figure out what your basal body temperature was. Now, mistakes are common, and I think I've seen all of the mistakes. So there are different ways. Some people take them vaginally, some people put them under their armpits. I don't teach that method, and there are a few reasons why it's not always going to be the right method. A cheap thermometer from just the pharmacy, the chemist, is really all you need. It's like $15, and you pop it under your mouth in the morning before you get out of bed, and hold it in your mouth for at least 5 minutes, maybe even 10 in the beginning, just to make sure it's consistent. Some people see that when they just pop it in, take the temperature immediately and then take it back out, that it reads differently to had they held it in their mouth for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 2 minutes. It just becomes more stable. It takes a little bit of time for the thermometer to come up to temperature, and they're often just, not all thermometers are perfect, and they think they're right, but they're not. And so if you can warm it up for a while before you press the start button, right? So some people also do this backwards. They put it in their mouth, press start, and then leave it for 10 minutes. You need to do it the other way around. You need to put it in your mouth for 10 minutes, then press start, or 2 minutes, or 5 minutes. If you feel like you have temperatures that are really up and down, zigzaggy, sawtoothy, we call it, that is a good time to test this first before going and getting your thyroid checked, or worrying that it's something deeper. We always check user error beforehand. So if I have someone displaying erratic temperatures, before worrying that there's something wrong, like with their thyroid, or just that their hormones are all over the place, I will first ask them how long they're holding the thermometer in their mouth for. Like I said, do it before you get out of bed, and do it before you take a sip of water or anything. There's been lots of times where we've been working together for a bit, and then we discover that they've been getting out of bed, walking around, and then taking their temperature. It's not that I didn't tell them not to do that. It's just that they forgot or they missed the memo. So if you're a coach, pro tip, always double check, because you're often throwing a lot of information at your clients, and so they just don't realize that they missed something, and they think that this is how you do it. And also, when it comes to taking temperatures, sometimes people have the wrong thermometer. So like I said, a basal body temperature thermometer is like $15 at the store, but sometimes people are using that like head scanner gun thing. That's not going to give you an accurate basal body temperature reading. Those things are rubbish. Some people are getting just a regular thermometer that just is kind of designed to check for fever. So it's not really, checking to the point of a degree of your temperature. A note on wearables, right? So some people do the temp drop wearable or the Oura ring. Those things are great. I've worked with clients where the pattern is the same. They'll do both the thermometer for me and they'll wear their wearable, just so we can check like what the difference is. So often the pattern will be the same, right? Lower, and it'll start to get higher. It'll spike for ovulation. The pattern will look the same, but the temperatures will be different. So often if you're using a wearable, something that you sleep with that monitors your temperature throughout the night, it's going to read lower. So we need to know, if you're working with someone or if you're a coach, we need to know what device they're using, because often with a wearable, it's taking the average of your sleep temperature throughout the night and not your temperature at the time of taking it in the morning, right? So it's actually lower when you're sleeping. So I don't want to be looking at my client whose temperature is 97.1 and worrying that their temperature is too low, when actually that was just the average that they were sleeping at, you know? So if you're gonna have a wearable and you wanna use a wearable for just at least a month or two, use one of these as well, just so you can understand the difference and the discrepancies. And every now and then, check in using one of these thermometers just to see where you're really at basal body temperature wise in the morning, not just what your average is while you sleep, because the two are different pieces of information. So the next common mistakes are typically around mucus. So when we check for mucus, we want to be checking in every direction externally, because there are different methods, right? The one I teach is specifically the symptothermal, and so we check our underwear and the toilet paper when we wipe. We do not do internal checks. So there have been plenty of times where I have clients observing lots of mucus, and then it's like so weird. You're seeing all this mucus for so long, but like other things aren't matching up. How are you checking for the mucus? They insert their finger and they're doing internal checks. Well, it's always moist in there. So it can be actually really hard, especially if you're new to the method, to check for cervical mucus with an internal check. There are other things up there. Vaginal cell slough is an example. It's just generally pretty moist in there, so it's not a great place, especially for beginners, I don't think, to be checking for their mucus. So really, you just need to be looking at your underwear when you go to the bathroom and folding your toilet paper nice and flat and wiping before you pee and after you pee and looking if there's anything there. And that is your mucus observation, at least if you're working with me. You guys, we have partnered up with the incredible skincare app Lovely. So check this out. My particular skin issues, if you will, are that I have huge pores and I get fluid kind of build up in my face, and I've never really known how to process it out of my face, or that there was anything I could do about it at all. I thought it was just bloating, and I can tell you that this is something that is really common in the HA society, and well, we see in clients as well all of the time, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. The Lovely app helped me develop a custom face yoga and massage plan to tackle these fluid buildup issues and my enlarged pore issues. And I can't actually believe how well it worked. So when we finally found Lovely, an all-in-one holistic self-care app with face yoga being at its core, we jumped on the opportunity to partner up with them. In fact, it was a recovered HAer, so one of you who listened to the show, who reached out representing the brand, which means they represent our amazing listeners as well. So I thought that this is perfect. Now let me tell you about Lovely. Lovely, spelled Luvly, lets you get personalized face yoga and skincare programs tailored to your needs and goals. They help you learn facial massages and gua sha massages to help reduce tension, promote blood flow, and boost collagen production. They let you explore anti-stress tools such as breathing and mindfulness exercises to improve your mental health and well-being. So if you're not already using a mental health app, this is an all-in-one for you. And they let you enjoy personalized meal ideas for healthy and glowing skin based on your dietary preferences. That's awesome. When I tried out Lovely for the first time, I was blown away. I felt like I was doing a full-on skin routine that involved 0 products being used on my face other than my favorite moisturizer. I saw a difference in my skin tone and even the elasticity in my face. I had dealt with the drainage and blotchiness issues completely, and I had no idea that I could even deal with that. I had this whole story about my skin, and I just realized in the end that all I needed to do was get on top of a face yoga routine. So the reason I love this app for you is because it's a way for you to create a routine in your life and still have a quote-unquote workout that is actually serving you in any season of your life. So if you're still learning how to relax after a long day, with a different approach to your previous stress relief strategies, you know who you are. There's nothing quite like winding down with a relaxing evening routine. And what better way to look after yourself than with Lovely's face yoga and mindful skincare routine? It's my current mommy alone time situation. So before you rush to try this app, here's something really cool. You don't just log in and start doing workouts for your face. They have created a quick quiz just for listeners of the HA podcast that will build a specific plan just for you based on your specific skin challenges and goals. So this is the best part. When you do the quiz, it doesn't take very long. You just answer a bunch of questions about your skin and statements you believe are true about your skin, and it will generate a plan for you with a code that you can then apply to the app that will not only load it into the app for you, but also provide 50% off of your membership. So this is just for the listeners of the HA podcast. To find the quiz, go to lovely.thehasociety.com. This customized plan feature has made my specific skin goals improve so much, so the quiz is non-negotiable. And remember, do the quiz anyways if you want the 50% off of the plan and the whole app. It's worth it. It is key to your skin success. So unleash your inner beauty and nurture your beauty and confidence from within, y'all. Take a moment for your me time and enjoy your beauty journey during a time where your body composition goals are not able to be your number one baby. So take the quiz, get the discount, go to lovely, lovely.thehasociety.com. That's lovely.thehasociety.com.
I'd say as well, another mistake can be confusing egg white cervical mucus and semen. So egg white cervical mucus and semen can look really quite similar. They can both be very crystal clear in color and arousal fluid as well. They really can be. They can kind of come out looking that way. So it's tricky. Or they can be just a little bit cloudy that still looks like mucus. So if you have had unprotected intercourse, the next day you actually might just want to expect to see some egg white mucus and maybe to consider any observations that day as a bust, as an unreliable mucus observation. If you have ovulated or if you're about to ovulate, you will know whether or not you have done so because there's a temperature shift as well, and or you would have seen more mucus in the lead up, and or you'll continue to see mucus after. So if you haven't been seeing any mucus, then you have sex, and then you see egg white cervical mucus, and then you never see anything else around that, you probably didn't see mucus. So just don't get that stuff confused with cervical mucus. People also sometimes confuse vaginal cell slough with mucus, and a good easy way to tell it apart is that if you cannot really pick it up, and if it just is like this white crumbly dry paste, not mucus. So anything else probably is. And then if you're seeing yellow discharge or something that's clearly a bit off and not something you've ever seen before, and it might even be accompanied by symptoms like itching or redness or burning, it's probably more of an infection than mucus. So really the only things that come out of your vagina are cervical mucus, vaginal cell slough, and discharge from infections. And so just getting to know what actual cervical mucus looks like is going to be your best bet, and understanding the difference between that and vaginal cell slough, which is really just dead cells, like the dandruff of your vagina. Understanding that you can't pick that up and you can't stretch it and it doesn't look like mucus, that's going to be your best bet. And then connecting symptoms of an infection with discharge, we should all be able to do that rather reliably. So don't get your mucus confused with cell slough and infections. If you do see a huge shift in your temperature, it's helpful just to make sure you're checking for all of the other variables, right? Say your temperature is super high one day, maybe you changed blankets, maybe your bedroom was too hot. I know sometimes our house gets really hot at night randomly. I wake up, I've kicked the blankets off, I've taken my clothes off, and my temperature reads like 98.6, like super high. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I ovulated. But it might go back down in the next 2 days. side note, this is why we wait 3 days before we can even say I've definitely ovulated, because there are other reasons why your temperature can be high. So an example is if your room is too hot, if you got a new blanket, if you're sleeping in a different room. So always with like user error or just like user interference, right? It's not an error, it's just life. Sorry if you can hear my baby crying. So just make sure that you're not confusing that as to why your temperature is changing. It's totally fine that happens. Just don't think there's something wrong with you. And that completes it for the most common, at least, things I see and challenges I see with consistently taking temps and just miscommunications. So I hope that this helped. And if you are a coach or you work with women getting their periods back, this can be a really helpful video to share with them as well. I hope that none of these mistakes are anything that you suddenly realize you've been making. But if you are, don't worry, just get back on track and see it as great, good news. There's not something like huge underneath in my body happening. It's really just a mistake that I've been making with charting. And remember that how you take your temperature and track your symptoms consistently is the most important thing. If you are not consistent, if you're taking them at all crazy different times, if you're checking for mucus not in the same, like not every time you go to the bathroom, if you're only doing it sometimes, if you're only taking your temperature sometimes, you don't have enough reliable information. The value of this process of doing FAM is in the consistency. So I recommend you take it. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by it, because sometimes through recovery, it can be a hard thing to do to continue to temp when you have been just seeing no changes, right? Because that's reality. Sometimes it takes time. If that's you, I just encourage you to just take the data and put it down and don't read into it. Don't stare at your chart. Take the temperature, write it down. Mark what you saw, put it away. Don't analyze it yet. In fact, when you first begin, which if you're in recovery, you're probably pretty early on in charting. When you first begin, you don't even have enough data to analyze. You just need to be taking it. And it's not really until you have a few months, like 3 months plus, that you even have anything to really look back and be like, okay, am I improving? Am I not? When you've had 3 cycles. With charting, just start taking it and don't even bother really analyzing it for the first 2 weeks to see where your temperatures are at. Are they too low? Are they too high? Then make changes. Don't analyze it again for another 2 weeks. If everything's looking good and your temperatures are in range and you're seeing signs of mucus and stuff, but it's taking a long time, note it, see it, acknowledge it, use it to make a change, right? Eat more food, rest more, supplement with, whatever it is, but do not let yourself dwell on it. Do not let yourself stare at it for ages. Try and Google around what it all means. Just take a breath, set a date for when you're gonna review it. I don't need to worry about it today. I worry about it on the first of the month, whatever it is. That's a really important tip. And in a way, it is a mistake that people make, is letting themselves get too attached to the outcome of the chart. You cannot replace your desire to control things like body weight, diet, and exercise, or whatever it is, with your desire to control the outcome of your chart. The chart is a reflection of what's happening in your life. You're not controlling the chart. All you can do is go and look after yourself. So let's conclude with the final mistake people make with charting. The final mistake is only choosing to see the parts of the chart you want to see and not the parts you don't. So people want to see it improve. They are excited when they see it go up. 1 temperature is better or something like that, But when it comes back down, when you're not in an optimal temperature range, or when you're seeing issues with mucus was coming and now it's gone, or everything's trending down, you're seeing these issues, but you don't want to make any changes. You're just well, I'm just going to keep going till it improves. No, that's not what it's for. It's not for you to just passively do. Only chart if you intend to use the information to make changes and work towards getting your cycle back. If you don't want to make changes, the chart's not going to help you. But if you do think it's helpful to have data to back up the decision to make a change, you're going to have a good time with charting. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I hope this video was helpful, guys. If you have any questions, if it was a bit all over the place, I will redo it. So just let me know. And if you're a member of the HA Society, remember we have menstrual cycle masterminds twice a month. So you can come and bring your chart and ask questions and we'll work on them together. So you can learn more about that at thehasociety.com. And if you want to start charting and you haven't, you can use apps, but you can also use paper charts. So we have some paper charts that you can download. You can print them off at home and use them. They're specific for HA recovery, and you can mark your mucus observations, you can mark your temperatures on there, and it's better than staring at a phone and using an app. Sometimes I prefer paper myself, but there are plenty of great apps out there too if you want. But if you want to download our paper version, you can find that at our store at thehasociety.com/store, and I'll link to it all below. Please subscribe to this channel, guys, so you don't miss another episode, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women